The ratings for last night's edition of AEW Dynamite on TBS, the Full Gear Go Home show, are in. Details Nut Plus. Nick Aldis, the SmackDown general manager, discusses the possibility of a CM Punk WWE return. The NWA reportedly are set to make major cuts as Billy Corgan looks to save money. Adam Copeland discusses his WWE exit as well as his signing with AEW and how he plans to use his freedom in the company. Details on the Like a Dragon street fight. How much did AEW get paid by Sega to feature that sponsorship? An update on plans for the LWO once Rey Mysterio returns after undergoing knee surgery, and WWE announces a major sports partnership. Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there are plenty of news stories to get into in the world of professional wrestling. Let's start off talking about the ratings for last night's edition of AEW Dynamite on TBS. As I mentioned, the go-home episode prior to Full Gear on Saturday in California. Now, AEW Dynamite last night, that being the November 15 episode on TBS, drew an average of 823,000 viewers, which is above last week's 804,000 and in line with the prior 10-week average of 833,000 viewers. 1 year ago this week, it drew 818,000 viewers. 2 years ago this week, it drew 984,000 viewers. In the key 1849 demographic, it drew a 0.28 rating, which is in line with the 0.27 and the 0.28 the prior 2 weeks. 1 year ago this week, it drew a 0.28 also. 2 years ago this week, it drew a 0.37 rating. The show advertised an 8-man tag team street fight, the Like a Dragon street fight, which we'll get into later on in terms of sponsorship. The Young Bucks versus Penta, El Zero Miedo, and Commander. Sky Blue versus Red Velvet in a TBS Championship Eliminator match to going to the match Saturday at Full Gear. John Moxley and Wheeler Yuta versus Orange Cassidy and Hook, plus an MJF speaking segment as well. What are your thoughts on the ratings for AEW Dynamite right now? A lot of discussion about the total viewership, and it kind of does feel like, certainly doesn't it, that this is just where Dynamite is. What does Dynamite and AEW have to do to get back above 1 million viewers for Dynamite? Can they ever do it again? What do they need to do? How do they get momentum? Let me know your thoughts on the ratings, the total viewership, and what you think AEW needs to do moving forward to increase the viewership for the program. Now, SmackDown General Manager Nick Aldis has opened up about the possibility of CM Punk making a WWE return. We're just over a week away from WWE Survivor Series in Chicago, and talk of a potential CM Punk return to WWE has far from stopped. Speculation about Punk returning in Chicago immediately began when he was terminated with cause from AEW back on September 2nd following the investigation into a backstage incident at AEW All In at Wembley Stadium in London with Jack Perry. In the months since, many WWE names have commented on the possibility of a Punk return to the company, with most being open to the idea if it would benefit WWE's business. New SmackDown General Manager Nick Aldis spoke to BBC Radio Norfolk, where he was asked about the possibility of Punk returning to the company. Aldis put over Punk's huge fan base and his drawing ability, believing it would be an exciting time if indeed he did make his return. Aldis said, quote, "He's built and cultivated a huge fan base. He sells a ton of merchandise. He moves numbers. He sells tickets. He sells merchandise. He puts butts in seats. Call me old-fashioned, but that trumps everything else. There is a way for him to compete in the WWE, and I think that if it can be done, and it can be really good business for everybody. I will wait with bated breath like everyone else to see if it happens. If it does, I will be excited to be involved with it." Now, Punk, of course, has been teasing the possibility of both a WWE return as well as being AEW's devil on his recent Instagram stories. However, it was widely reported yesterday he's not the devil in AEW, and he's not scheduled as of right now to make a WWE return next weekend, but he is having fun with these teasers on social media and is more than aware of the speculation surrounding him. Now, that was the story coming out of the interview, but Aldis has since sort of reacted and responded to maybe people commenting on his speculatory statements about a CM Punk return. And for context, here's what Aldis has said regarding the interview in question. He posted the following on social media. You can see it on the screen right now, saying, quote, "I'm disappointed that this answer is edited out of context, considering it's the BBC. For the record, I have no dog in the fight, and that situation is above my pay grade. Be better journalists." So maybe saying that actually the answer that he gave wasn't necessarily the answer that was reported. So that's worth keeping in mind as well. There's been a lot of stories recently about the NWA, Billy Corgan, as well as TV deals. CW, a recent controversial spot at a pay-per-view, maybe costing them a television deal. And now to add to all of it, it looks like the NWA is going to be set to make big cuts when it comes to talent and production to save money in the coming weeks and months. Now, it's safe to say it's been a wild month for Billy Corgan and the NWA. House of Wrestling were the first to report last month that Corgan had inked a pair of television deals with the CW, one for their weekly Power series and the other for a yet-to-be-named reality show. Those plans were thrown into disarray following a controversial segment at a recent NWA pay-per-view that featured Father James Mitchell doing drugs on camera. Obviously, you don't think they were real drugs, but this is pro wrestling, you never know, with various extras and members of the roster. Now, the backlash to the segment on social media caused the CW to reconsider airing the NWA on its actual television airwaves. It will now likely make the content available via its app. Shortly after Nick Hausman's initial reporting about the CW reconsidering airing Corgan's NWA content, it was announced that WWE had signed a multi-year deal with the CW to air NXT beginning in October 2024. Now, House of Wrestling are now reporting they have learned that the NWA is expected to make cuts to its roster and various production areas soon. One source that Hausman spoke to told House of Wrestling that Corgan will make cuts, quote, at every corner. One example they were given on the production side is that the hair and makeup department's budget will be cut roughly in half. Nick Hausman was also told that this weekend's NWA Power tapings will primarily only have contracted talent appearing and what was described to House of Wrestling as a bare-bones crew. Exceptions to the rule regarding non-contracted talent appearing are Violent J and Mike Knox. Concerning Jay, House of Wrestling have been told he flies himself in and works for free. Current NWA Tag Team Champion Kratos is also not under contract but holds the title. The two wrestlers playing a masked tag team are also not under contract but are working an NWA-owned gimmick. The January tapings have already been booked with primarily contracted talent. The talent cuts will likely occur following those tapings in early 2024 when Corgan expects to start contract negotiations. As was previously reported by Nick Hausman, several NWA talent's contracts come up in June 2024. Now, it must be said the report suggests they were not given an idea of how many talents would be cut and not re-signed, but it was stressed that all contracted talent was under review and their benefits to the company were being weighed. Talent without contracts cannot be let go, so some of them are working without formal deals will likely not be called regarding future bookings. Now, another cost-cutting measure that House of Wrestling has learned about is that most NWA talent can no longer fly in the day before shows. By doing so, the NWA no longer has to pay extra hotel costs, which they have been footing the bill for up to now. The NWA has been paying for flights and hotels for talent, which is different than the standard WWE deal, which usually only covers flights. Paying for hotels has been considered an incentive for talent to work for the NWA to compensate for their lower pay compared to more prominent companies. From what House of Wrestling has been told, AEW also pays for their talent's hotel rooms. NWA talent will continue to have their hotels paid for on the night of tapings. If the tapings go for more than one day, they will have their hotel paid for on each night of the taping before they fly out the day after the final day. The January tapings are tentatively scheduled for 2 nights, so the talent will get their hotel rooms paid for on both nights if indeed that is the case. Now, Nick Hausman has been told that the cuts are because Corgan has been funding everything out of pocket for the NWA for years. There has been, quote, little to no sponsorship money coming in, end quotes, and he has spent millions on Power and the NWA reality series. If the promotion wants to keep operating at a level they're comfortable with, cuts will have to be made. So certainly a lot of uncertainty surrounding the NWA right now. What are your thoughts on this? And what are your thoughts on just everything that's been happening with the NWA over the last couple of months, as we mentioned, going from joy and people thinking that there was the NWA was certainly on the way up with a television deal, 2 TV shows airing on the CW, the spot at the NWA pay-per-view, and now cuts being expected to be made to cover costs as well. Let me know your thoughts about all of it in the comments section below. Now, Adam Copeland, of course, the Rated R superstar in All Elite Wrestling, has spoken up ahead of Full Gear, of course, where he teams with Sting and Darby Allin. He's spoken up about his exit from WWE, as well as his creative freedom that he has in AEW. WWE Hall of Famer Edge officially left WWE when his contract with the company expired in September. Following his contract expiration, Adam Copeland debuted for AEW at the climax of the Wrestle Dream pay-per-view on October 1st. Copeland has given several reasons why he opted to leave WWE for a new challenge in AEW, and he has now revealed another disagreement the two sides had over his role in the company. Speaking to the New York Post, Copeland said that WWE's perspective was to only use him sporadically in order to keep him special, but he disagreed, wanting to appear weekly on the shows. He said, quote, "I think from their perspective, and I see their perspective entirely, if we bring you out too much, then it's not special anymore. I get that, I really do. So it was for limited dates. With that though, you can't really get into a proper story. You can't really dive into what this thing could be. For me looking at it, it's like I'm 49. I got a very, very limited time to capitalize on what I have left, because 3 months off, that's 3 months where I could have done some stuff. And I know it sounds great on paper, and don't get me wrong, it wasn't a horrible place to be, but if I'm gonna do this, man, I wanna do it. I wanna try and craft some stories and do what I can while I can. So limited time, yeah, because I'm far closer to the end of my career than I am to the beginning, but I still think I got some good stories that I can tell, a whole new roster of people who I've never touched before," Copeland said. Now, Copeland took part in his first match in AEW on the October 10 episode of Dynamite, where he defeated Luchasaurus. As I mentioned, he would team with Darby Allin and Sting to face his former best friend, the TNT champion Christian Cage, Nick Wayne, and Luchasaurus at AEW Full Gear this weekend. As far as how he can use his freedom in AEW, he said the following, quote, "What I've noticed is the creative process and some of the freedom that comes along with that, and I think that's been really fun. Not that I haven't had creative freedom, I've been very lucky in that regard over the years, but it's different when there are not shareholders, and it's different when there is a different structure in that regard." Copeland had previously spoken about the idea of having more freedom in AEW compared to WWE, and he was asked how he plans to use his freedom in All Elite Wrestling. He said, quote, "Tell stories, and I think have more input into those stories too. That to me is what I always thought we are, is storytellers. To be able to have more of a voice in that regard is exciting. That's not to say I didn't have that to a degree. 25 years in the place, WWE, you're going to have that trust and all those sort of things. But I also understood it's a different animal. There's more to answer to. With this, it feels like maybe just a few more chances taken in order to see what's going to stick to the wall. Sometimes it isn't going to stick. It's exciting, the process, to see what does. To sit down with a guy like Jay, with Christian, and kind of start mapping out this story when we are at this stage of our careers, it's just fun." So we'll see what happens with Adam Copeland and Christian this coming weekend in California. Now, last night was the Like a Dragon street fight on AEW Dynamite, and AEW had a major sponsorship deal this week with Sega involved with it. As was previously reported by the likes of Sean Ross Sapp and Fightful Select, AEW landed a big deal with Sega for the street fight match that aired on the November 15 episode of AEW Dynamite. Now, Fightful are now reporting they've learned a lot more about the deal and how actually the deal came to be in the first place. The Sega deal, according to Sapp, was into the six figures and largely connected to Kenny Omega. The sponsorship was tied to the Yakuza spin-off Like a Dragon Gaiden, the man who erased his name, and featured several references to the game. The deal had been worked on for weeks along with Sega, AEW's Nick Sobick, and Kenny Omega. There were original pictures for the match to take place at AEW Full Gear or other shows, but it was ultimately decided on the Ontario Dynamite. Dynamite, as compared to Full Gear, also put more eyes on the sponsorship. Paul White had been planned for a return to the ring in November and factored in, and Sammy Guevara ended up getting pulled from the match to be replaced by Brian Cage due to injury. The segment with Kenny Omega, Chris Jericho, and the Young Bucks from last week was actually filmed the week prior. AEW sources said they believe Tony Khan included Sega in the Kota Ibushi signing announcement for added value as well. Those that Fightful spoke to were happy how it came off too. So AEW being paid six figures for that match last night. Do you think that's good business? And what did you make of the street fight itself? Now, switching back to WWE and SmackDown, of course, SmackDown last week featured a big heel turn from Santos Escobar. We've got more updates when it comes to the wider plans for the Latino World Order, now that Rey Mysterio has undergone surgery and also when he's expected back. Now, last Friday night on SmackDown, Rey Mysterio found himself on the wrong side of a beatdown from fellow LWA stablemate Santos Escobar. The two men were put at odds by Carlito, also in the LWO, who accused Escobar of not doing enough to help Mysterio retain the United States Championship at Crown Jewel. At the big show in Saudi Arabia, one of Logan Paul's entourage members fed him a pair of brass knuckles to try and win the match, as he did against Ricochet at SummerSlam. While Escobar was able to run off the member of Paul's entourage, the knuckles were dropped on the ring apron and used by Paul to secure his first WWE Championship victory. Earlier this week, Mysterio announced that he had undergone knee surgery following the attack. It was reported by Nick Hausman of House of Wrestling that the surgery was for a torn meniscus and that he was only expected to be out of action for 6 to 8 weeks. Last year, Mysterio confirmed he had undergone 12 surgeries on his left knee, on top of surgeries for a torn bicep. On today's Wrestling Observer Radio, it was confirmed that Hausman's reporting was indeed accurate, and they also explained what they had heard about creative plans for Mysterio and the LWO once he returns. According to the Observer, the LWO is destined for a group versus group feud once Mysterio is recovered and returns to television. One of the groups will consist of Escobar, Cruz del Toro, and Joaquin Wilde, while Mysterio will be aligned with Carlito and possibly others. While not explicitly stated, Bad Bunny has history with Mysterio and could theoretically help return to even the odds. Of course, we do know Bad Bunny will be free for night 2 of WrestleMania next year, as well as the Raw after WrestleMania. So possibility we could see some kind of 6-man tag at WrestleMania next year involving all of the participants. Finally, WWE has announced a big major sports partnership today. WWE has officially announced a partnership with the Big 12 Conference for the upcoming football championship season. Now, earlier today, it was actually reported by WrestleVotes that WWE were working on a deal with Big 12 for a potential partnership ahead of the new season. Well, less than 2 hours later, that partnership has been officially announced by the company. A press release was released by WWE saying, quote, "Today, the Big 12 Conference announced a collaboration with WWE for the upcoming 2023 Dr. Pepper Big 12 Football Championship on Saturday, December 2nd, held at AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas. Through its partnership, the Big 12 and WWE will introduce a custom-made championship title bout for this year's Big 12 Football Championship Most Outstanding Player, presented on-field at the conclusion of the game by a WWE superstar. Additionally, a co-branded WWE Big 12 logo will be featured throughout the venue and on the field. Throughout the week leading up to the 2023 Dr. Pepper Big 12 Football Championship and the game itself, WWE superstars will be prominently featured and integrated. In addition to the championship title bout presentation, select WWE superstars will participate in a Big 12 Conference community events, pre-game hospitality events, and the game's official coin toss. Quote, "WWE is a global brand that connects with a wide array of audiences," said Commissioner Yormark. "With this partnership, we will integrate WWE and its brand power into one of the conference's biggest moments, further strengthening the bridge between sports and entertainment throughout the Big 12. Brett and his team at the Big 12 have turbocharged the conference through innovative media rights deals and commercial partnerships, constantly exploring new ways to grow the conference reach and influence," said WWE President Nick Khan. "We're excited to partner with them and help amplify the Big 12 Championship. The Big 12 Conference and WWE will also collaborate to introduce an exclusive Big 12 Championship merchandise line. Merchandise will be available for purchase online and throughout AT&T Stadium team stores as well." So a big announcement by WWE and a big collaboration as well. But there you go, guys. That's the latest pro wrestling news for you. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right hand corner. As always, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.